Man, I got to tell you a story. Something I heard recently. Um, Guys, kind of interesting. I think it's interesting. Perkins hung in the doorway of the police station like a Halloween decoration that the owner of the house had forgotten to take down. He was nervous. He was freaking out. He was shaking. He was a shuddering kind of figure, stood there in the doorway, trembling. He didn't want to go into the police station, but he was in a position where he knew that if he didn't go into the police station, then what had been happening to him was destined to carry on. He waited there for a moment in the shadows, wishing that he was one of them, and then, certain that he wasn't, he moved into the light. There were two police officers there, one at the desk with a body shaped like a kangaroo, reading what looked to Perkins like a word search magazine, and another one who was crouched over with one shoe and sock off, looking at the bottom of his foot. As Perkins walked in, the guy who was crouched over looked up at him and then, without any provocation, said, "Veruca, swimming baths," apparently identifying and solving the crime that he believed had befallen him. Perkins paid no attention. He walked up to the desk and stared upwards at the desk sergeant, who, looking somewhat like a kangaroo, looked down at him from a thin neck and a head that went up to a kind of a point, lowered his glasses and asked Perkins what he wanted. Perkins, nervously, whispered, "I've been the victim, the victim of a crime." "Well," the desk sergeant said, "you wouldn't be here if you hadn't." And Perkins laughed nervously. "You are right, you're right." "What kind of crime?" the other officer shouted from behind, peeling off a small piece of skin from his foot, looking at it and then rubbing it away with his fingers. "Hog," the desk sergeant turned round and said to him, "Put your shoe and sock back on. Can't you see this is a formal matter?" "Sorry, desk sergeant," Hogg said, and slipped back his sock and shoe as Perkins fiddled with some papers that were on the counter. He thought it was a leaflet about sexual assault. He couldn't be sure. All he could see was some exposed skin and a red cross going through the middle. "Well, what is it then, sunshine?" the desk sergeant asked, and Perkins fearfully began his story. "Well, hard to say, hard to be exact, but I've been the victim of a crime." The desk sergeant, Linley, looked again over his glasses and said, "Sir, I thought we'd established you'd been the victim of a crime, hence your appearance here." Yes, of course, Perkins said. The crime that I've been a victim of, yes. I've been threatened. Threatened, the desk sergeant asked. "That does sound serious." "Threatened," said Hogg, sliding his shoe back on, stamping it on the floor until it made sure that his chubby little toes went right to the end. "That's right," Perkins said. "I've been threatened. I've been the victim of a threat." "Would you care to illustrate the threat?" Desk Sergeant Linley asked. "Well, yeah, of course. And Perkins straightened himself and tried to correct his shirt and tie, both of which were a mess, dangling lamely at odd angles adjacent from his own neck. The threat that came to me. Well, it's happened several times, but if I tell you the first time it happened, we can possibly take it from there." "Sounds very good," Linley said back to him. "Sounds good," Hogg echoed, as he would. "Well," Linley said, I was having a coffee a few days ago, just in a cafe in town. It was an average cafe and just a normal day. It's a place I stop in on my way to the office sometimes, and I'd sat down and I was drinking my regular flat white, and a man came up to me. "A man," Linley said. A man, Perkins confirmed. It was a man. He came up to me. He's a very smart man. He's older than me. Probably not old enough to be my father, but certainly old enough to be a younger uncle or even an older brother. But well kept, and I was immediately struck by how neat and tidy he was, and his silver hair, there wasn't one out of place, and he seemed like a very interesting man from his appearance. And he sat opposite me and passed a few general comments. It's a beautiful day today, he said. I agreed. And even under the canopy from outside the cafe, you could still feel the sunshine. It kind of crawled in, almost like a thin yellow wave over my feet. He actually used that term, and I thought, wow, that's a beautiful way of phrasing it, which it was. He asked me what I was drinking, and I said a flat white, and he told me that he likes a flat white as well. He said that he used to like cappuccinos, but he thought they'd become a bit too typical, and lattes were just far too milky. And they are milky. Oh, they are milky, Lindley said. Very milky, Hog echoed. Very, very milky. Well, as we were sat there, he stopped the general chit-chat we were saying, and he said to me, I thought it was important to let you know, and it was important to me to tell you that I'm your nemesis. Your nemesis. My nemesis. Perkins replayed the conversation to Lindley and Hug. I said my nemesis, and he said, yeah, no big deal. I just needed to let you know that I'm your nemesis. Okay. I didn't know what to say, Perkins said, so I just said okay. And the man said, okay, thank you. And he got up from the table, and he went up to the counter where the baristas are. That's what they call them now, the baristas. And he went up to the barista, and he paid for his coffee, and he paid for mine. He paid for my coffee, and then he left. He left the place. Now Lindley, desk sergeant, keeping his finger on the exact page of the word search that he was on when Perkins entered, he didn't seem to get it, what the threat was. He looked down at Perkins, and he had that look about him then, where he was surveying him, looking him up and down, and seeming as if he was wondering whether the person in front of him wasn't there for some sort of practical joke. Well, are you sure that's a threat? He asked Perkins. Well, yeah, it's a threat. It's a threat. Perkins said he told me he was my nemesis. But, Lindley said, he also bought you a coffee. And he seemed very polite. Well, he was polite. He was polite. That was the overriding thing, Perkins said. He was polite. If I had to describe him, I would say he was a polite man. He had slate grey hair, a fine overcoat, and a very well-spoken way about him. But he did tell me he was my nemesis. Okay. Well, Lindley said, I can't say I'm getting it so far, sir, but if you'll proceed. Please proceed, Hug said, authoritatively. Huggy, Lindley said, give the man a chance. Sorry, Sergeant. Sorry, Desk Sergeant. You said there was another occasion, Lindley said. Yes, Perkins said there was another occasion. After the incident at the cafe, I was a little discombobulated, as you may imagine, confused. It's not the kind of thing that happens to someone normally. They don't really get told they've got a nemesis, and even if they did think they had a nemesis, they don't really expect to see them, do they? Not in a cafe, not in the cafe they go to work. So I didn't go to work. I wandered around for a while, and well, I walked to a park and walked around the park, and I sat and thought about things, and well, eventually I went to a shop. A shop, Lindley asked. Yeah, there's a shop, just a grocer's on my way home. I popped in there and I took some things to the counter, but I didn't want them. Was this where the man approached you again? Lindley asked. Oh no, Perkins said. I just wanted to try and build up just how confused I was, you know. So you didn't go home then? No, I didn't go home. No. I went to the cinema. You went to the cinema? Lindley asked. Yes, to the cinema. It was a small theatre. I went to watch a Danish film, quite like the European films. Perkins seemed distracted to Linley, as though he was trying to tell him the story, but in doing so, in bringing it back, it was more confusing, more painful than the first time it had happened. Yes, I went to see a Danish film. Which film? Hogg asked from behind him. It's called The Butcher's Boy, Perkins said. The Butcher's Boy, Linley questioned. The Butcher's Boy, yeah, it's a Danish film. About a butcher's boy and an apprentice who, long story short, learns much of the meaning of life in general via the different cuts of meat he's taught to prepare. It's a thought piece, it's a art house. Art house, Linley asked. Art house, Hogg said behind him. It is art house, I believe that's the term. Well, I was sat there in the film, and it was about halfway through, and there was a tap on my shoulder, and I turned round, and there he was. The man again. The same man from the coffee shop, Linley asked. The same man, Hogg questioned. The same man, Perkins said. It was the same man. Well, he was sat there, and he smiled, and very casually said to me, "How are you finding the film?" And I said, "Well, I'm enjoying it. You know, it's cleared my thoughts after this morning." Oh yes, the man said. The cafe, yeah, oh yeah. The cafe, Perkins said. That's where I needed to clear my thoughts after the cafe. Okay. You enjoying the film? Yes, Perkins said, yes, I am enjoying the film. Are you enjoying the film? Oh, the man said, yeah, I'm enjoying the film. I've seen this a few times now. I'm a big fan. Right, Perkins said, nervously. And he was telling Lily, and he was saying, I was stricken with fear. The man was behind me again in the dark, and there was no one else in the theatre, it seemed. Well, what happened? Lindley asked. Well, the funniest thing, Perkins said, he leant over and he asked me if I wanted some of his popcorn. His popcorn? Hogg asked, aghast. Popcorn, Perkins said. He asked me if I wanted some of his popcorn. And I, hold on a minute, Hogg said, hold on a minute. Was this sweet popcorn or salted popcorn? But I don't see what that's got to do with anything, Perkins said, annoyed. I really don't see what that's got to fucking well do with anything at all. Whoa, Lindley said. Sir, this is a police station. Please try and act with some sort of decorum when you come in here. You do realise that profanity in public is also a crime. And so far, your story aside, we haven't heard any kind of particular crime outside of you just using the word fuck. I'm really sorry, Perkins said. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get it together. It's just not easy. It's not something I can easily explain. It's a tricky business. So, Hogg said, salted or sweet? Well, I didn't fucking try any, did I? Perkins said. No, sir, Linda reminded him. One more time, and you'll have to go. Okay. I'm sorry, Perkins said. I'm sorry. And he knitted his fingers, and he unknitted his fingers. And he did that with his fingers. For no reason. He had no reason to do that. And Lindley looked at it and wondered why he was doing it. And Perkins saw that and he stopped immediately. It had nothing to do with anything. He offered me his popcorn, and I didn't take it. I said no, thank you. And he said, well, okay, enjoy the rest of the film, and remember, I'm your nemesis. Oh, Perkins said. Thanks for that. And the man sat back, and well, I watched the rest of the film, and when I turned around to leave, he'd gone. So he must have left before me, but then he did say he had seen it before, so I'm assuming he knew what was coming. Well, Lindley said, I'm still yet to see a crime outside of the fact that the man paid for your coffee, offered you some popcorn, and you shared a film experience together. It's the nemesis thing, Perkins said. It's the nemesis. He's telling me I'm his nemesis, or he's my nemesis, and that feels like a threat. It is a threat, isn't it? You say that. It's a threat. And you say there was another occasion. There was a third occasion. Perkins said there was a third occasion. It's the most recent actually. I went back to my apartment earlier, and I was by the post box, and I was getting my letters, my bills, and there was a tap on my shoulder, and I looked round, and it was him. Who? Linley said. The man, the Nemesis, the man, Perkins added. The Nemesis, Hogg said, the one with the salted popcorn, or was it sweet? I don't know about the popcorn, Perkins said. I don't know about the popcorn, please. It was the man. And he stood there and he was smiling, and he asked me how I was, and I said I was okay, but, you know, all things considered, I've been a little preoccupied. I'd imagine so, the man said to me. I'd imagine so. And I just stood there, and he said to me, I wanted to give you this, and he handed me this basket, and it was full of fruit, different types of fruit. It was a fruit basket with a ribbon on and a bow, and I took it, and I didn't know what else to do, and he said to me, I hope you enjoy the fruit, and I just wanted to remind you that I'm your nemesis, okay? And I held the fruit, and I felt stupid, and I didn't know what to say, Perkins said. And I said, but did you follow me? Did you follow me? Have you followed me? No, the man said, I didn't follow you. I live in the same building as you, above your rooms. You live above my rooms? Perkins asked. Oh yes, the man said. I'm in the apartment above. I'm your nemesis, by the way. I know I've said it, but and that's what he said. And then he went, and he didn't go down the street, and he didn't go away. He went into the building, and he went up the stairs, and they're the same stairs that I go up, Perkins said, and so he must live in my building. So you see, I'm a victim, he said hopefully to Linley and to Hogg. I'm a victim. Hogg, that's your name, I'm a victim, and Linley, I'm a victim. Well, Linley lifted his finger from the word search, evidently more interested in the puzzle that was ahead of him than the one on the paper. He looked at Perkins and he said, now listen, sir. So far, I've not heard a crime outside of your language, and if I can be truthful, you're telling me that you've met a man who bought you a coffee, offered you popcorn, and latterly gave you a fruit basket, with the only inference of a threat being that he claimed to be your nemesis. Is that correct? Well, it is kind of correct, Perkins said. Okay. So can I suggest to you, Linley said, if I can be circumspect and even a little existential, it's possible that we all have a nemesis, sir. All of us, each one of us, and perhaps the only difference here is that you've been confronted by yours, and knowing that a nemesis exists is a counterpoint. It doesn't necessarily mean that something's going to happen to you. But, and at this, Perkins became really very agitated, rubbing his face, picking at the straw of his beard, trying to correct his tie again, even though he'd taken it off. He told me he's my nemesis. He's going to do something to me. It doesn't really sound like it, though, does it, sir? Linley said. But it does. But it fucking well does, Perkins said. It fucking well does. Okay. And at this, Linley pushed the glasses back up his nose, and Hogg stood there, formally, authoritatively, like the thuggish, idiot security guard he portrayed. We're going to have to ask you to leave now, Linley said. You need to go, sir. We've heard your story, and it was very interesting, and Hogg's got his Veruca, and I've got my word search, and We are a police station after all, with real crimes. But, please go, sir. Crestfallen, Perkins turned away and sidled out the door, passing back through the shadows that had emerged. Funny, Hogg said to Linley after he'd gone. Funny that he told us this story and he didn't even tell us his name or his address. There's plenty of funny ones, Linley said. Now, are you going to sort that Veruca out, Hogg, or not? Straight on it, Desk Sergeant. So, that night, Perkins went home. He was scared and he didn't really know what to do and he had nowhere else to go. And he went to his rooms and every noise was a phantom and every movement was a witch and a devil. And he pulled his sheets up over his face and he looked around in the dark and all of the items that he knew, all of the belongings, they were still there, but they had teeth and they had frightening yellow eyes. He couldn't sleep, so he got up and he went to the kitchen. He kept some spirits in there, but not many. He wasn't a big drinker. And he got a glass, and it was a bit of a glass, like this glass, and he would normally have a nightcap to here, and he kept pouring until it came to here. And he downed it, 2 hands, a beaker, nervously. And he went back to bed, and he tried to sleep. And after a while, when the booze had taken hold and he dozed into a stupor, he was awoken. Searching the room around him, the items around him, those things he knew, from the glass next to his bed to his wardrobe, he scanned them. And there in front of him, sat on the edge of the bed, was the unmistakable shape of a man. Nervously, with an arm that seemed to waver like the last leaf on an autumn tree, he reached for his desk lamp and he turned it on. There was the man, the Nemesis, sat there with the same friendly and congenial smile on his face. And he looked down at Perkins and he said, "I'm really sorry to wake you. I know it's late and you're a working man, but I don't know if you got the message. I am your nemesis, and there's only one logical conclusion to this." Perkins was beyond fear now, frozen in that twilight between action and inaction. So he just looked at the man and nodded. "Okay," the man said, his nemesis. And reaching into his overcoat that he still wore, which was a very neat overcoat of the finest wool, he pulled out a long, thin blade. In the light from the desk lamp, it looked almost ethereal. There was something electric about it to Perkins. And these were the only thoughts that he really maintained. And standing above him, holding Perkins' jaw, his nemesis smiled down at him and rested the blade on his eye socket. And he drove it right in, slowly, to where disbelief meets acceptance.